First step in setting up your publisher is to go into the schedule. Look over to the right side. You have various categories given to you by default. If these match the types of posts that you're going to be doing, you're all done. If you want to add additional categories, for example, if you post holiday posts, then you might want to add a category for holiday posts. This will allow you to report on them separately. So it's not only a good reporting tool, but one other thing you can do with categories is you can set up automation, which leads us to the very next step. On the left side, this is your automation schedule. You'll notice it's set up in a weekly format. So every week, what this is telling me is that you are going to send out on a Monday, for example, 4 different posts. Each one of these schedule items represents a post. So let's take the first one, for example. Monday rolls around, it's 8 o'clock. What our software is going to do is we're going to try to match all of these conditions. So the logic goes like this. It's Monday at 8. Any post that you have tagged with any of these categories will go out at 8 o'clock in the morning to these social networks. So let's say you published it and you selected all the social networks, a profile from each one of these social networks. If you turn off all of these except for Facebook, what will happen at 8 a.m. is we will send the Facebook portion of your post at 8 a.m. But because the others are turned off, it will leave those other networks in the queue. I'm going to save this. Then what you can do is at 10 o'clock, let's say you want the rest of them to go out. So since we have the same category, let's say it was inspirational, and the category matches again, what we're going to do, and let's turn Facebook off here, the net result of this will be the rest of that same post will go out to the other social networks at 10 o'clock. And then it will be done and it will expire that post from the queue. The only exception to this is if you have requeue enabled. And I'm going to show you this when you start publishing to social media. So I'm going to, let's save this. So now let's take our example where we requeue our posts. When you requeue, what happens is all of the items that are fresh in your queue are going to be selected first. But if you run out of content, let's say you go on vacation for a week and you have no fresh content added to your queue. What we're going to do is look at all of the items that you have tagged as a requeue. These are evergreen items, things that might talk about your brand. They're not news of the day specific. So if we find a requeue post that matches all of this criteria as well, then we're going to go ahead and send that requeue. What this is going to do is keep your feed full of content no matter what. So you want to make sure to publish quite a few different requeue posts as well. So if you go on vacation, or let's say your content manager quits and it takes a couple of weeks to replace them, well, all of that great content that they've been publishing will continue to be posted until you can hire somebody new and fresh content starts getting added to your queue again. So let's jump into the publisher. This is going to be your day-to-day. So what you do, like let's say you want to post something new to your schedule. I'm going to say I love Ferraris, and then I'm going to just start typing in my link. Oops, just Ferrari.com. And then as soon as you hit space, we are going to go out to that URL and we're going to pull in as much information as we can just to save you time. So I'm going to make sure that I have all of the social profiles selected that I want to post to. Notice that I can set these on or off by default just to make my life easier next time I post. If I'm posting to a group, you get some additional options here. I can post as the page that owns the group, or I can post as the individual that owns the group. Once you select page, just notice that you're going to have to select the page that owns that account. And when I say own, I mean the admin. Any admin can publish to your group. I want you to note something here. If you are publishing to a group, when you set up that group initially, there's one extra step. So when you're in account preferences and you add the group, a link will appear to add the app to your group. Make sure you go add that app, and then you'll be able to publish just fine to the group. So now that we've pulled in all the information, I've got a couple things I can do to customize my post. Let's say I want to add an emoji You can do that here by clicking the emoji icon and just selecting an emoji. Let's say I also want to bold Ferrari. I can hit bold, and if I want to italicize love, I can italicize it here. Fantastic. So notice it already pulled in some images from the page. You can scroll through and pick the different images from the page. You can also add additional images here or here using this image icon. Notice that there's an asset library option if I have an image that I already have uploaded in the past, or if I want to pull in from my millions of commercial-free images that our software provides. I can do that here, or I can upload a fresh image from my hard drive. Let's go to the asset library. Notice we already have a few images. Every time you publish, your images will appear here in your asset library. We have a number of different folders, so you can upload backgrounds and store them here just to keep your assets and your brand consistent across all of the different assets that you upload. Now I want to go out and grab something new, so I'm going to enter Ferrari and do a search. And what this is going to do is go out to commercially free sources and pull in a number of different images. Once you find one you like, just go ahead and click it and select it. Notice that any links that you add, it's going to be added here. The first one will be added here as an attached link. So if you want to add additional links, you can continue on writing your message here and add up to 5 different links. What we are going to do in the background, when you click publish, we're going to add all of that tracking information that we added in the account setup. Remember the analytics integration? We're going to add all of those parameters to your links, and then we're going to shorten them. So you don't need to use a link shortener. It's all handled for you within our software. So if you look to the right, you're going to notice this is our next step. I want to make sure it looks good in all of the different social networks. Now, Instagram, I'd like to add a hashtag here. So I can do that a couple ways. I can click on that text and it's going to create an editor here. So I can now say Ferrari. I can do the same thing in any of the other social networks. Notice I can also add bold only to my Instagram caption. And I can add hashtags. So that leads us to our next step. Once you're done checking out the individual posts and how they're going to look, might be time to add some hashtags. So we have a nice little hashtag group organizer that you can create. Sports cars is one that we've already created, so let's go in and edit this. So notice how we have separate hashtags for each network. That's because different networks have different hashtags that may or may not work. So what you can do is go to your hashtag research tool, grab as many as you want, and just paste them into this field here. Notice I can also manually add them here. So what our software will do is we're going to automatically and randomly pick this number of hashtags from your list. So if you add 100 here, we're not going to post 100 to your post. That would crash the post and it wouldn't work. You can do only a maximum of 30 in an Instagram post. So what we're going to do is only pick the number that you want. You can manually add after that, but go ahead and select the number of posts. Like LinkedIn, they're not real heavy on hashtags, so we're only pulling in one. Once you're happy with it, give it a name and save it. And now you can very quickly add those in the future. The next step is to select a category. Remember the first step that we did? Once you set up all your categories, you have them available here. So go ahead and tag this post. And what this is going to do is drop it into the correct schedule item based on the category you selected. It's also going to make your reports really streamlined because now I can filter that report based on the category, and it will only show us reporting on all of my promotional posts. Now remember we talked about requeue. This is where you're going to tag it as a requeue. So this is going to be for all of your evergreen content, and you can auto expire this information or this content just by selecting these options below. Let's say I only want this to go out 6 times. I would just enter 6 here. Let's say this is a holiday post. So what I can do here is I can select a specific date in the future. So I might choose to go out and have this automatically expire at the end of the holidays. I've got a New Year's post going out, so I want to make sure to wait until after that. Let's select the 3rd of January of next year. From there, I can even select a specific time of day. Once that's done, you just click Add to Queue, and what will happen is it's going to add this to our queue folder, which I'll show you next. Before I do this, I want to give you some other options as well. You can publish this immediately. You can schedule this for a very specific time in the future by selecting a date. Notice that I can also requeue posts that I schedule immediately or schedule for a specific time in the future, or posts that I add to the queue. That's very important. So I could post this immediately if I have to get this out right now, but if it's also evergreen content, I might as well put that in my requeue. So now I've got that evergreen content reposting in the future as well. That's an area of flexibility that you won't find on pretty much any other software. So use that frequently whenever you can. Make sure your requeues stay populated, and make sure you expire stuff that is just getting stale, just to keep it fresh. So there's one other, instead of just selecting a date here to schedule, there's one other way I can do this. I can optimally post this. So when I select optimal, what's going to happen is, this is a brand new test account, so it's not going to recommend much for me, but it's going to go out and recommend post times based on what we observe for each one of your social networks. And the way we do this is we're constantly checking who is clicking on your posts. So now we know exactly when you can post. You can get really detailed here though. Remember we set up lead conversion tracking and revenue tracking? Well, if you've already done that, I would wait until you've posted maybe 30 times just so we can have the opportunity to analyze your account longer. What we can do, if you click this calendar icon, not only can you select an optimal time here, but within the optimal, you can go into, let's say, Facebook. And now what it's going to do, it's going to show you just for Facebook alone. These are going to be your future times that we recommend. We don't have any sales conversions yet, so we can't recommend anything. But let's say we choose optimize for clicks. If we had a bunch of clicks already in our test account, it would show us dark blue cells for the most optimal and lighter blue cells for less optimal. So it'll show us in the next 24 hours the optimal time to post based on when people are most likely to click. I can also expand this in the next 48 hours. These are the times that we recommend. So any custom conversion events, it'll also show. So we set up a test drive conversion event for when people select, okay, I want to test drive a Ferrari, and they submit that form to request a test drive. Since we set up a custom conversion event, now it's actually going to recommend times to post to social media when I am most likely to get a test drive. That is very powerful, so make sure you make use of this. Once you've done that for each of your different social networks, then you can go ahead and schedule. But for the purposes of this test, I'm going to go ahead and publish this immediately. The reason I'm doing that is I want to show you guys one of the most important aspects of this program. We actually go out and verify every single post on every single network that we send out. So what'll happen is, see this verification report? Well, this verification report shows us that we went out and posted to this Facebook account and it is live. So we can actually click through to this test account and see the post live. This allows us to add if we want to boost the post, we can see that. If you have a client that wants to verify it, now you can take a screenshot and say, see, it is actually on the social network. This is a big time saver. So once we're done with that, I'm going to move on to the queue. What the queue folder will do is show you all of your upcoming posts. If it's already been sent, it's going to jump into your sent folder. But for now, I want to show you around in the queue. So these are the two posts that are still going to go out. Notice that we've already sent one immediately. That would already go to the sent folder. So what these are some test posts that I queued up before I started this video. So we have a requeue post here and a requeue post here. You're also going to see queue posts. So let's say I add a post to the queue and I select it as a requeue. It's not going to immediately show up as a requeue until it's gone out at least once. So what you're seeing here, this is the post that I just sent down here. So what happens is, remember we sent that as an immediate post, but we also switched on requeue. So that's going to drop it to the end of the line. It's going to tell us when we asked it to stop posting. Remember I selected January 3rd, 2022 after the holidays. It's going to tell you this so you can plan for that. It's also going to show you the date that it was originally added to the queue. So this one up here was sent originally as a queue post. Once the queue posts automatically go out, then it will start showing as a requeue. And scheduled items will say scheduled. Within here, I have a couple options. I can open this as a copy if I want to send this again with a slight variation. I can edit the post, or I can delete the post out of the queue. Next step, let's jump into the sent folder. So what's nice about this software is we archive everything. So you always have a nice little archive of things that you sent out in the past. But not only that, it's a big time saver, because what you can do is click on actions and you can open this as a copy. So if you have a post that did well that you want to send again with a slight variation, no problem. Just go ahead and open it as a copy and you'll be ready to send it again. You can also run your verification report again. Let's say a client says they don't see it in their feed. You can run a verification report, click on view in live feed, and send them a screenshot. Change the link. Oh boy, this one really helps. So this can be a real lifesaver. Let's say that you posted the wrong link in your post. Well, every single link that you ever send, we actually manage those links because we're a built-in link shortener tool as well. So now what I can do is say, you know what, with Facebook, I promised the client that I would also add a parameter for them and say source equals social. So now what I can do, instead of having to delete that post, is I can change this. Even if it's been shared a million times, it doesn't matter. All links that are clicked now that went out to Facebook for this post will now be redirected to this URL. So that can really save face if you happen to post the wrong link in a post. Go ahead and save the changes, and that is immediately matriculated across that social network, all shares. Next step is to go to drafts. Oh, before I move on, I want to note that there's a filter here to quickly find items in your queue, and you can also filter by category. And more importantly, there's a delete feature that we have that is pretty advanced. Some of the social networks allow you to delete posts using their API. So what that means is when you delete them here from your sent folder, it's also going to delete the live posts. We will indicate which ones were deleted from the live social network and which ones still require another step for you to go out there and delete them manually. The drafts folder will basically show any posts that you saved as a draft. I do not recommend using this as part of your approval workflow. If you have a separate person doing your social media, don't ask them to save them to drafts folder before you look at them. The best thing to do is go into your user management, which we'll go over later, and create a separate workspace user for your employee and a separate workspace user for yourself, and then set up automated routing. What that will do is when they publish, just like I just showed you how to do, it's automatically going to be sent to you for your approval, approve it, then it will go out to the social networks. It's much better than filling up a drafts folder and then opening it and then publishing it after you make your edits. Now, there's a couple other advanced features I want to show you before we move on. The import feature. First thing you do to create a spreadsheet of bulk posts to post to the software is to download an example. This will create a spreadsheet for you to show you exactly how to create your bulk posts. Now, let's say you have 100 posts that you want to create. You can just create this spreadsheet with 100 posts in it. Specify which images, any videos that you have. Go ahead and specify everything you need within that spreadsheet. And then in one step, you can upload the spreadsheet and specify which social networks it's going to go to, which category it goes to, And what it's going to do is create queue posts for each of those 100 bulk posts. And just make sure you select the correct settings. Hold is an important one. If you want to have a look at them before they go out, go ahead and select the hold, and it will hold on to them until you go into your queue and approve each and every one of them. Then click Add to Queue, and it will import all of your posts. If there are any errors, don't worry, it will tell you and ask you to go do them again. And it will even tell you which row of your spreadsheet has an issue. I want to show you these hover over icons. You'll find these throughout the software. These are just little tooltip icons to show you without having to jump into the help file knowledge base. It'll just show you right there on the spot some information about this particular option or this particular section of the software. Next, we have another huge time saver, and this is called RSS. Have you ever been to a blog and noticed an RSS feed option? Well, every single blog out there has an RSS feed, and even YouTube channels have an RSS feed. Even Bing search results has an RSS feed. So now imagine being able to take every new piece of content that is ever added to any of those blog feeds and having that automatically be turned into a social post in your queue. We're talking about a manicured post that has the correct image, the correct title, and the correct description already populated for you. Now, that's the power of this software. We can do that. We can automate any number of different RSS feeds in one simple step. So let's click Add an RSS feed. First thing you want to do is paste that URL. So here's an example from Mashable. Their RSS feed appears here. So the best way to find an RSS feed, and there's information in our knowledge base about this, but just right-click anywhere within the blog and click View Source. This View Source will show you all of the source code of the page. Now hit Control F if you're on a Mac, and if you're on a Windows-based software, it's very similar. Just use the Find feature to find on the page the term RSS. Generally speaking, the first thing you find will be the feed of that RSS, and it'll be in URL format with an HTTP in front of it. Copy that feed, paste it here, enter the name, and it's going to go out and pull in the RSS feed information. So you can append text to it. So what this means that we will add this text to the end of the message. So you might want to give them, like if it's Mashable, we might say @Mashable. And every single post that we post from this RSS feed will actually give attribution to Mashable. Specify how many of the old posts you want to pull in immediately to add to your queue. And what will happen is we'll pull in those old posts, and then going forward, we'll only pull in the new posts that come to that feed. Specify the social networks you want to share all of these to, the category you want to tag all of these posts with, select your settings, and click Add RSS Feed. That will add the RSS feed and immediately pull in the number of old posts that you specified.